Welcome back to Work Experience Discover, the IAESTE ASBL podcast. My name is Mark, and in this episode, the 19th episode of our podcast, I have two guests with me who are Dutch alumni, and they created a board game. And we invited them to talk about the board game, of course. It's called GigaWatt. And we also will talk about their experience with IAESTE. It's a very nice game, actually, GigaWatt, and it tackles a very important topic because it's about the energy change, the energy transition. And it's a very difficult topic, and they approach this not just in their professional life, but always they want to bring this topic to everyone. And that's a very nice way to create a board game around it. And I think that will be a very nice way to listen, but it's even more important maybe for some people, because we will also talk about how their experience with IAESTE actually led them to do the board game, or other way around, how their experience with IAESTE made it possible in their mind that they can create a board game. And so I really hope you enjoy our interview with Jöbke and Walter. And at the very end of this episode, there will be also the trailer of their Kickstarter, because the game is now in March 2022. It's on Kickstarter, and you can support them to create their board game. And the very amazing thing by them is as well that for every purchase you make via the IAESTE community, they donate money to the IAESTE Development Fund. So now go on Kickstarter, support them, and when the Kickstarter is over, they will send out the survey where you can put in that you were coming via the IAESTE channels, and then you support them and also IAESTE. So please enjoy now this episode with Jöbke and Walter, and about their experience with creating a board game, and also their experiences with IAESTE and how they actually founded IAESTE in the Netherlands a few years back. Thank you very much, and enjoy this episode. So Jöbke and Walter, can you give me a little bit about your, let's say, professional background?
Yes. So basically we know each other, and also Milo, our third co-founder of the game we're going to talk about. We know each other from our studies, mathematics. We studied mathematics in Utrecht. Wouter and I actually got to meet each other on our very first day. We were in the same introduction group. Well, that was a match made in heaven. So we both studied mathematics. After that, I'll stick to myself so Wouter can add from his side. I went to work for a strategy consultant, Bain & Company. Worked there for 4 years, and then thought about wanting to do more entrepreneurial things. So and I wanted to do something on a topic that I was 100% supporting. Basically, as a consultant, I got a new project every 3-4 months for a different company, and in the beginning I very much liked that because you're learning a lot. You see a lot of companies from the inside, but after a year or 3 I started thinking about quitting consulting and starting for my own or joining a company that was just starting up, and then on a topic that was fully behind. So basically halfway year 4, I decided I was going to leave, and I discussed that with my mentor, basically my advisor at Bain, and they were very helpful. I got in touch with a company in the solar business. They had just started. It was actually a friend of my advisor, so he introduced me there, and I turned out to join that company, and we were basically leasing solar panels to other companies. So with large roofs, 1,000 solar panels or more, and we were looking basically for companies that did not want to invest in solar panels themselves because they wanted to use their money for their core business, but still wanted to become more sustainable. So then we would lease them. So we would invest and then lease it to the company. We got acquired in early 2020 by an investor, together with 5 other companies in the meantime. So over the past 2 years, so we're now one new group of all sustainable companies called Groendus. It's a Dutch name, but groen is green. So yeah, it's a sustainable company focused on businesses, so B2B, and on making them more sustainable with basically 3 core businesses. One is solar or projects, because we're also looking at batteries and stuff. The second is metering. So we sell and lease metering devices to companies, because if you measure data, then you can give the best advice. Basically, it's the classic thing. And the third one, the third thing is a software company where we basically all integrate all the software and monitor all kind of things, and have a energy marketplace where we make basically matches between sustainable energy producers and sustainable energy off-takers, without the traditional utilities in between. So it's kind of the Airbnb of energy. That's what we like to call it.
That's actually a nice comparison.
Yeah. So that's and I'm now still partly shareholder in that new group of companies, and I'm still working there as well as business development director. Well, in the meantime, we've also done something with IAESTE, but we'll come to that later, I guess. So I leave the floor to Wouter now.
Yeah, so indeed, as Jupke said, we started at the sort of at the same point that I study mathematics, and afterwards I went to another consulting firm. So I joined McKinsey and Company at the time, initially in the digital practice. Then after a few years, I left and I went to go start a company with my brother, actually, to aim to reduce plastics in retail logistics. So very, very specific, but with a lot of product development in there as well, which was is something I really like, something tangible. I went on to do my MBA with a focus on sustainability, and with the aim also to go back to McKinsey to actually focus on sustainability consulting. So I became part of we called it the Sustainability Insights practice, where we were supporting countries and companies on their decarbonization strategies and roadmaps. So, for example, we co-wrote the climate action plan for Ireland, which is pretty excited, and some other countries. Some point, actually, me and my the partner within McKinsey I was working with a lot, we decided to leave and actually focus on the same thing, but then in a company that is only focused on sustainability. So I switched to a company called Systemic, which is focused on both consulting for sustainability, but also on coalition building. Because typically, if you want to create systemic change, it's very hard to do with only one actor. You typically want everyone involved. So example projects that we do is with the big industry players. So for example, we then work with in steel, for example, we would work with some of the larger steel manufacturers, but also with the banks that actually finance these steel players, but also with demand of takers of steel, because together you need to sort of coordinate the actual change. So for example, one steel manufacturer might want to change, but if no one wants to pay the premium, then it's going to be very hard, because initially, if you switch to a greener technology or like a less carbon intensive technology, you probably pay a higher price initially. And so we try to coordinate that and work together, and also try to understand to what extent they are able and willing to share, for example, technologies, what they think is the right path to decarbonize, and then actually use all that information to also work with policymakers to be sort of more on the front foot in policy making, so that you can actually, with all the knowledge of how the dynamics in each sector are, that you can use that to have policy that actually incentivizes and and pushes that change more actively. So working there now, and yeah, I think I'm really much enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel that. And I think that's really amazing because we are here actually, and that brings already, you brought already a lot of things up, that sustainability and decarbonizing companies and decarbonizing maybe whole Europe is a very, very difficult story. And that's why we are actually sitting here together, because you guys, together with Milo, invented a game. It's called GigaWatt. And I read through it actually, and I'm proud to say also being one of the Kickstarters, because that's also one part why we are doing that. The game is about sustainability and how to do the energy change from coal power plants to actually sustainable and newer energy, providing technologies like solar panels as an example.
Yes.
And please, Walter, maybe this time you start. Introduce GigaWatt a little bit to what is GigaWatt, what it's about, and what's the goal of the game, let's say, broken down.
Yeah. So GigaWatt is a board game.
Oh yeah,
And,
amazing. So everyone on YouTube, Walter just showed it to the camera.
And yeah, so it's a board game about the energy transition, and it's a board game designed for everyone. So to have fun with your friends and family around the kitchen table, and to play a game of GigaWatt. And in the game, your goal is to essentially fulfill the energy transition. So as you just mentioned, you start with coal and gas plants in one specific region, and one player is responsible for one region. And over time, the demand for power is growing. And so you have to buy new technologies, for example, solar, wind, but also nuclear, to make sure that you can keep up with that extra power demand. But at the same time, you want to try and fulfill the transition, which means you need to shut down your coal and gas plants. So, and of course, that's a challenge when your demand is growing. But the first one to do so the first one to have no coal and gas in your region anymore and still able to meet the power demand is the winner.
That's amazing. And actually, there is a very nice video for the introduction you produced for Kickstarter. And if it's fine for you guys, we put that at the very end of the podcast episode, because that puts really together also the difficulties about making the energy change, because there are so many, articles out there, and yeah, we have to do that, but it's not A and B. It's much more difficult, like also you guys doing your jobs. I see that.
Yeah. And we think the fun thing about the game is as well that there's no clear strategy to win, and every time you play the game, it's a different game. And we have people, for example, that are against nuclear, although it's of course there's no CO2 involved there. So from the CO2 perspective, it's the winning technology. But you have other downsides of nuclear, for example. So there's of course a lot of people against it still. So we have also players that really want to play the game and win it without nuclear. And it's also possible to win it that way. But these choices and those kind of things really make it also the game we intended it to be, because these are exactly the challenges we face in reality as well, and the discussions we should have with each other to fulfill ultimately the energy transition.
Yeah, because I think that's the big point we have as an example in politics or something. It's always A or B, and that's the perk about sustainability and about the energy change. It's not, you somehow cannot say we just quit it. But maybe Jepke, walk me a little bit through it. How did you come up with the idea together as a team, I guess? And were you always board games enthusiasts? So did you love to play games and just thought, it would be nice to invent a game on our own? Or was it just because of your old job descriptions that you thought, how can we make this problem about energy change more accessible to everyone else?
It's actually, it is of course a combination of both, but it started with the first. It's just, yeah, we've always, all three of us, very much like to play board games. Personally, I always like the negotiation in it. I mean, yeah, I've been an entrepreneur for a while now as well, and yeah, you need to negotiate in that as well, and that's one of the things I like in my job. But it's also what I liked at the young age already, playing, for example, Catan or Monopoly. So actually, I had for quite some years, like over 10 years, already the plan or the idea to at some point in my life make a board game. And actually, when I started applying for a job for these strategy consultants, this only strengthened my idea, because if you have to apply for a Bain or McKinsey or one of the other consultancy companies, you're having these case study interviews. And actually, these are small puzzles as well, small games as well. And I thought, okay, so in an interview, for half an hour, an interview, you're actually solving a puzzle, doing basically an economic kind of game. So I thought, yeah, I think we should be able to make a board game, an economic board game, so to speak, as well. And that's an idea I had for at least 10 years. And then, well, jump forward to early 2020. Yeah, we basically had, the three of us, we all studied mathematics. Wouter and I were in the same year, but Milo actually is 2 years younger. But we found each other because of IAESTE, because we basically, IAESTE, the Netherlands, had existed for a long time. Yeah, I don't know until when, but I think until 2006 or something like that.
Yeah, early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe I'll elaborate on how we got to refound basically IAESTE Netherlands. But
Sure.
we did that with 4 people, so Wouter, Milo, myself, and Danny.
Yeah.
And back then we so much liked the experience of creating something out of nothing, that we said, okay, we're now still students, but when we grow up, when we're in real life, we wanna do something together as well. And then in the early 2020, I just sold my company. Wouter, Milo could find some time to spend on something joint as well. And so we basically thought about what kind of things could we do together, and it really went from isolating houses, was an idea that Wouter has had, also something in the plastic recycling business, and yeah, I just mentioned my board game idea. So I didn't really have still already the thought about the energy transition, but yeah, as we were all working in the energy transition, the topic quickly became a board game. Yeah, exactly. And naturally, actually, we all drew to this board game idea, and so we let all the other ideas drop, and we continued with the board game idea. And maybe Wouter can add to it, but that's basically how we got to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe one other aspect was in my job at doing some of these decarbonization projects. I developed some sort of game, but that was for a whole country, and so not only the power sector, which GigaWatt is about, and then you would have you would have a deck of cards, and each card would be a lever, and so one lever would cost X amount, and would be able to reduce the emissions in a country also with Y. And you could play the game sort of how would you want to decarbonize a region. And so I think when we were sort of debating at first which topic would it be, right, for the game, I think in part because we work in energy, and in part that I sort of had, but on a global scale, developed some sort of, on a country scale, developed some sort of game. We thought, let's maybe try and use that, and then we got into the game. And I think what was pivotal is relatively early on, we got the key mechanic. And the key mechanic that I just outlined is that there is growing demand, but we also want to shut down production, which is of course a conflicting interest. And so when you actually think about that when you move your pawn forward with growing demand,
Mhm.
but your production goes down when you shut it
Yeah,
down,
yes.
and then you see oh shoot, there is something going wrong. And we had that mechanic while brainstorming in the first few months. We had that quite early, and I think that allowed us to build some confidence. And as Jupke said, I think at that point we were like, that we might be onto something. I think is what we felt like at that point. So
Yeah,
that was really
because
cool.
it's really I like that, and you already put on some questions I had, because for me, like, the idea is one thing, but then going all the way is basically, or building something around an idea is sometimes a bit difficult. And that's what I wanted to ask. So what was then the process, Walter, from let's say you had the idea, and you had early on also your idea you developed for the countries you just explained, but then how went all those pieces in together? So did you have like regular meetings on it, or how was the process from this point? Because I can imagine, having the idea is one thing, and having, the basic mechanic, energy to carbon, how
Basically
did
balancing demand and
yeah
supply, that mechanic.
yeah so balancing, when came all the pieces? Because it's actually really a beautiful designed game, like one of the pawn, it's like, an umbrella I saw.
So
maybe
for the design, we should give credit to Wouter's girlfriend. She is
okay.
actually a professional designer, art director, and so we were very happy that she would join us in our development of the game, and take on the artwork or the design side of it. So we're very happy with that, because it's really a design that jumps out.
Absolutely. And but what
But maybe to your question, I think the first thing is that Jupke mentioned that we came together at a moment where we all three of us had sort of time, but we also were eager to take on something together. And I think that already meant that we went into, as Jupke mentioned, some sort of brainstorming sessions. We had, I think, weekly meetings where like a few hours where we would bring in new ideas, or we would expand on ideas that we had. We would commit to something, then we would not commit to something. Because I think I remember that initially on the board game, I was a bit on the fence if I was.
Actually,
is this really something that I would do or not?
It took you, I think, 2 months or something to really go for it.
Yeah. But then at some point, at least we at least had some sort of mental state that we would commit to something at some point in this process. And so when we at a few months going back and forth, when we had something that we thought could be something, we already had sort of our next step in plan as, okay, so now we're going to try and commit and at least try and get it to the next phase. So first it's ideation, maybe initial concept, and so at least we would say, okay, let's bring it to the next phase of maybe an early prototype or something.
Maybe let me ask here, because what I imagine, okay, you write down, that's like basic the things, that's maybe the first cards you can have. Can I imagine like that the first prototype you were really writing on your own on your computer, cutting out the things and trying to play the game?
Oh, very much so. Many times. I remember I was going to play with my family, and I took just I had already something drawn up at my home, but I forgot to bring it, which is of course very stupid. So I went to the place. I got a big piece of cardboard, and I just draw the board again myself, and we just used pawns and dice from other games, and then we could play it.
But we should also mention Milo's mom, because she actually made the very first prototype. That actually looked like something. So it was not yet with the design we have now, but it was a fully playable version, basically. So that was fun as well. So
for the Excel fanatics between us, it was she made it. So Milo's mother made it in Excel, which is, I think, fun. Epic.
Wow. Wow. How can I imagine that? I mean, first of all, what I really love about this story right now is, I mean, it was your girlfriend, Walter, this Milo's mother involved. Like, you had a lot of people like supporting you actually on the journey anyway. I mean, it's your
Yeah.
idea, it's kind of baby. And now for all of them, it must be so amazing to see it now happening. And when we look at the Kickstarter right now, which is actually open till the end of this month, so March 2022, like,
Yeah.
people are supporting you. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And yeah, so also with the final design we've now chosen, basically the way we worked, and that's basically how Wouter's girlfriend Yvonne always works, is that you have basically 3 different, completely different designs, and then she made some quick sketches in those 3 designs, and then we got to pick basically one direction, and then she continued on that direction. So that's basically how that part went.
Yeah.
And it was also a fun process to do it.
I can imagine. How long did it take in total? Like from first idea till now starting the Kickstarter?
Yeah, it's about 2 years, because we started in the first lockdown, Corona lockdown. That's basically when we started.
Oh, amazing. And how was it then? How did you are now producing it with Kickstarter on your own, or do you have now a company behind you supporting you with all the printing and maybe also the delivery? And how did it happen? If so, how did it happen to get in contact with them?
Yeah, maybe Wouter, you've been in touch with that site.
Yeah, so the concept of the Kickstarter now is that that we aim for a large and professional produced batch of games. And so for that, we have been in discussions with different manufacturers, and now we landed on one manufacturer in Germany, Ludofact, who we sort of have an agreement with that if our Kickstarter is going to be successful, that they want to produce the game. And the intent of the Kickstarter is that we indeed have people like yourself, Mark, that then, in a way back the game on Kickstarter, which for us means that, hey, there is demand for the game, there is initial payment for that, and with that, those payments, we can actually produce the game. So we can place the order at the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer can produce it, and then in October, November, we will actually have those games and be able to ship it to you.
Yes.
So that's the concept of the Kickstarter. So all before mostly was made on our own kitchen table. We had a set of 20 prototypes made at a prototype game prototype maker. But now this is really for a professional print.
So, and maybe Mark, to get back to your original question on what the process was like. So basically, Wouter and Milo committed to a full day a week to develop this game. So I have to really give them credit to really come to this ultimate game. And we had check-ins with the 3 of us every week as well. So that's where I could give my feedback and stuff. But yeah, Wouter and Milo really did the work from idea to realization. And just committing a day a week every week, and then a lot of days together will get you a game.
So you guys are now the full experts. So if I receive it then in November and I will play with you, you know all the little details. That's a problem for me, yeah, right?
Well, actually, I played it yesterday with 3 people who played it for the first time. I didn't win. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's, I think, also a good learning actually for the energy change. Like if everyone, in charge of like a government, that there is no way like everyone can win it if you just commit to try it,
Exactly.
Yeah. We're maybe planning to do a sort of championship at some point end of this year.
Oh, nice.
And Milo's brother actually is, I think, the candidate who might win. He's the one who's been winning most games so far. So I'm excited for him to compete as well.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. And maybe let us go now a little bit to the IAESTE relation now you have, because all of you told it already, are IAESTE alumni from the IAESTE Netherlands. And now there's a cooperation between you, GigaWatt, and IAESTE ASBL, because when people who get to know the game via the IAESTE channels, you will donate €1 to the development fund of IAESTE ASBL, which is an amazing thing for the whole IAESTE community. IAESTE Development Fund in general, just to explain it a little bit, is a fund by the head organization to support new national committees, as an example, to join the annual conference every year. So national committees can apply to the ASBL to get funding to be able to join the annual conference, which is only one part of the development fund, and that's very amazing. And let us a little bit talk about your experience with IAESTE, because you already said that you guys told that you were building up IAESTE as well in the Netherlands again, or maybe you can walk us a little bit through that, about your experience with the association.
Yeah, so basically it started when I was in Berlin, because I did my master thesis at the Deutsche Telekom laboratories in Berlin. And it had taken me quite some effort and time and hassle to really find an internship abroad. And I actually was part of ISEC, so one of our friendly competitors in the field, basically.
Yes, but you know, we have the same goal. So for
exactly,
me,
so
in the moment, it's like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, but they are not so much focused, of course, on the technology or the beta, the science studies, but more on the other the remaining part, basically. So they couldn't help me with a mathematics internship thesis either.
Yeah.
So I had to do it all by myself. And actually in Berlin, the ISEC and IAESTE committees, local committees of Berlin, they joined forces. So they're basically one big local committee. So I thought when I was in Berlin, let's just check ISEC out, because just to get some social contacts. And then I jumped into another name, IAESTE. I thought, what's that? And then, well, it turned out to be what we all know. And actually kind of similar to ISEC, but then with a focus on technology and science and stuff. So that was the organization I had missed in the Netherlands to make my life easier when finding an internship abroad. So then I thought, okay, this is really something that should be in the Netherlands as well. I found out that it had existed before, but that it stopped, etc. And then I actually immediately pulled Wouter on board, because we were basically still in the same classes and stuff. And Wouter liked the idea as well. But I was in Berlin at the time, so actually Wouter did, again, a large part of the hard work in the beginning, talking to the university and those kind of things. And and then at some point we thought, okay, we are almost graduating, so we're too old for IAESTE soon, so let's find some younger people from a university to join us. And that actually became Milo and Danny. With the four of us, we really co-founded IAESTE the Netherlands, or co-founded. And that's where it started, basically, for us. Maybe Wouter can add some from his perspective back then.
No, this is the story, and I think it's exciting that I think that exciting feeling of starting something and something from an actual need, right? So we felt the need, and then we wanted to fill that to provide the broad experience for technical students in the same way as Jupke was looking for. I think that's I think still a very strong example of why IAESTE exists and why it is there. Maybe just an additional shout out to Alzira and Pauline, who joined us very quickly after, and then together we formed the first board of IAESTE Netherlands.
Yeah, of course. And for me, maybe one additional question to this part of your story actually is, because we have now again in the association some, let's say, newer committees who are struggling for student-run committees. You know, after coronavirus, now a lot of universities were in distance learning. So maybe can you give a little bit, what was your benefit being active in IAESTE and having the experience talking to universities for, you know, getting stuff and so on? What was there a benefit for you later in your professional career because you were volunteering with IAESTE?
I think many benefits. I think first of all, I think to have the sense of agency in your own life, I guess, is really helpful. That you want to create something, and I think the IAESTE platform is a great place for that. That you can try things, and you can see when it materializes that you get that sense of fulfillment, and that you know that if I go for something, I can create it, and that's a skill that will last for the rest of your life. So yeah, having sort of a side responsibility next to your studies, which is of course also a responsibility, yeah, is a really strong benefit. And I think then in the context in which you operate with IAESTE is that you meet people from other countries, that you are also you're sending your friends and other fellow students, you send them abroad to other countries, so you get to learn, or you yourself go abroad, so you get to learn those other countries and communities, etc. Is very enriching, and also those relations are also, they last a lifetime, and the lessons, and to learn how a company operates in another environment, yeah, it's extremely valuable. So if anyone ever considers like spending more time on this, I would definitely highly recommend it for the rest of your life, and for that moment in itself as well, because it's extremely exciting.
Yes.
And to add to that, I mean, Wout already emphasized the benefits for your own personal development, but also professionally. Basically, it is really perceived as something good on your CV as well by companies. So it also helped us to get the jobs we wanted, because we had shown it initiative. We had shown. And I mean, you can also prove kind of that you did those things because you created this, or you went on an internship. I mean, in an job interview, they always ask about your skills and stuff. But if you really experience things, and that's one of the goals, of course, through IAESTE, then first of all, you have a much more colorful story, and you can actually underpin it with the real experience.
Yes.
So yeah, it's also very valuable from a professional.
I really agree with the point in the interviews, because I got my first job while I was still studying at university. I got hired by Intel, the chip manufacturer, everyone basically knows. And it was really funny, because my job interview was not about my technical skills, because my supervisor later on, he read that I was active with IAESTE, and he knew it, and he just asked me about my experience with the association, and that I was on an internship in Qatar. And he was like, oh, how was it? Because he was originally from Egypt, and he wanted to know how Qatar is and so on.
Yeah.
So we spent the whole hour on interview, just talking about the IAESTE and my experience with it, but not about my technical skills. And he was like, yeah, you know, with your initiative, like, you get hired. And that was like, and that's how I got hired by Intel, right? Just
but of course, you shouldn't do it for that reason alone, but it's a nice benefit. You should do it because you like it, and basically for the reasons Wouter mentioned, for yourself, just for your own personal development. But yeah, the nice benefit next to it is,
and maybe there's one additional benefit is that you are also you're helping a community, so you're providing a service, which is very grateful to do also.
Yeah,
I remember every time when the students would come back from their experiences abroad, it just felt like, oh, I helped facilitate their experience, and that it just felt so grateful, which is also very nice to do.
Yeah, it's very fulfilling as well.
Yes, I think that's like really one big part of the IAESTE community is like we all are like-minded, and now a lot of people actually also within the IAESTE community are a lot of very important point for them is sustainability and how to preserve the world we have right now and how to help you, and that's I think why also your Kickstarter with the game will be a huge success. And again, like there will be the link to the Kickstarter in the description of the podcast. And there was also an email to the IAESTE community. If you're outside of the IAESTE community, again, in the description of the YouTube video or on the podcast description, there will be the link to the Kickstarter. Check it out and become one of the Kickstarters.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out as well. And actually, Wouter and I wanted to also share that. Yeah, we first agreed to basically donate €1 per IAESTE backer, so to speak. But we, as basically our GigaWatt experience wouldn't have existed without the IAESTE, we thought let's raise that donation to $2.50 per IAESTE backer, so that more people
That's
can
amazing.
hopefully enjoy the IAESTE experience. So
that's
hereby
amazing.
we wanna confirm that.
Yeah. It's not just you saying it, it's the team.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I mean, thank you very much, and thank you very much for being part. I think what it shows is like you said, you met at university, you built up IAESTE together in the Netherlands. It showed you how to build something. Then you guys started, okay, let's do a board game, and now we can help you. IAESTE is giving you back again by helping you to promote the game. And now
Exactly.
I think once IAESTE, always IAESTE somehow, you know.
Yeah.
Let's go now to my last question. Actually, I ask everyone, and I think there is a website also on the game. We put it in again if you want to get in contact with those amazing people. The last question, and maybe Walter, you start, and you finish or add on.
Mm-hmm.
And my last question, I think you partly answered it already, but I want to ask it anyway because everyone has to answer this question. and the question is quite simple, and you guys just imagine you are now not just talking to me here via your microphone, but your microphone is now connected to every student on the planet. And these students have a question, and the question is quite simple. Why should they get involved with IAESTE, being a volunteer or going an internship? Where do you see the value of IAESTE?
So I think, I already mentioned it a bit, I guess. And I think just with the current war in Ukraine, I think that emphasizes the point of traveling. I think getting to know other communities, getting to understand how other communities operate, and get to know the people, get to know that almost every human being on this planet is a loving and caring human being. And I think the more we know and understand and appreciate all of that, hopefully we would have less situations like the ones that we have. I think that's, to me, the most important value that IAESTE brings. And every person that I've met through the IAESTE network has been a confirmation of that hypothesis, right? That every humans are kind, every human is kind. Of course, there are unkind humans. And I think, yeah, traveling, you sort of move away that layer of unknown. And yeah, that's, I think, one of the biggest added value. So every single student should try to have some of that exposure.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I actually had the same thing in mind, that the current events show again how important it is that we become an even more close-knit global family. And I think, yeah, since World War II in Europe, we know the importance of it, and although the EU has a lot of downsides as well, I think, and it helped the countries belonging to it to become more of a close-knit family. And I think we should extrapolate that even further to the rest of the world to prevent these things, as in Ukraine and Russia, from happening again. And also the two memories I have of the jumps I went to, for example, in Switzerland and in Poland. Actually, when I was already working, I did a presentation at the jump in Poland, and yeah, it's this global feeling of being together and getting to know each other. And of course there are differences, but bridging those differences by talking to each other, by working together, by playing together, having fun together. I mean, yeah, that's priceless. I mean, and I think it's the only way to prevent these things from as the war in Ukraine from happening in the future. That next generations are even more close knit than we're having now. And IAESTE, organizations like IAESTE have a pivotal role in that.
Thank you very much.
You too.
With everything we do, we use energy. Competing for the best Christmas decorations, taking a race car to school, or microwaving your cat food. While enjoying all that energy, our world is impacted. Fortunately, we can do better and still enjoy that twinkling tree by harvesting the wind that blows through our hair or using the force of a coursing river. So the times of monopoly are over. In this board game, you build these wind farms and hydro dams while shutting down coal. Lead this transition during your powerful reign. In GigaWatt, you compete as one of the 6 European regions. The goal is to be the first to replace coal and gas by building the technologies of the future. During the game, your energy demand grows fast and is sometimes higher than what you produce. Balance this by trading with other players. But be aware of the weather. When the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine, less power is produced. In addition, technology cards help to strategize, forecast the wind, sell energy at higher prices, or attack another player by inciting a protest. As you invest, collaborate, negotiate, and win auctions, you develop a powerful region. So what will you do? Shut down your coal plants faster, risking blackouts, or rely on coal for longer, risking climate change and your extinction? Since you're watching this, we know you like using power. If you're also into action lobbying games and unicorns, please back our Kickstarter. In exchange, we'll send you our game.